Hello and welcome. Welcome to the Red Pill. This is the show where we talk about the hidden side of money, alternative history, and the so called conspiracy theories that often end up to be confirmation theories. Tonight, we're going to have an experiment on civil discourse, and we'll see if dialogue is possible between different holders. Some people believe in Bitcoin, some people believe even in XRP. So we're going to watch David it's going to be on a game show, and that's going to be really interesting. So we're going to watch together and have a little watch party and talk about it live.
Oh, so he's live?
Yeah, they're live. They're about to go live. Here we go.
Oh man.
The host Crux, and we're going to actually be going through
show.
another game show. This is only our third iteration, so bear with us. We're still in beta, but I hope everybody's doing good today. We have five different contestants that are going to be showing actually their knowledge and being able to answer some of these questions that we have. And it's super simple. Shit. Basically, this is how it goes. I make a statement such as, is the 4-year cycle still intact? And then they either agree, they disagree, they strongly agree, or they strongly disagree. And with this, I'm going to make sure it gets into the hot crypto takes and the hot debates. So the people that are strongly geared in any direction, they're going to go at it. So it's very interesting. It's unique. And it's a way for us to be able to spread the wealth across crypto knowledge. So if you are tuning in for the first time, I'm going to bring these 5 contestants up here in a second. And what I want you to do is make sure you subscribe to each and every one of these guys. We are putting our hard-earned time into this, and it's going to be the next part of what I think is going to be massive in the next bull market. So smash that like, hit subscribe.
So this is Crux of Crypto. He a really good guy, a fellow veteran. Oh, here, let's let him introduce.
We have Shook Focus, we got David, and then we got Black Rue. I hope everybody's doing good today. So a couple different things.
It's a Jew.
If you super chat, it's going to go to the creator themselves. So at the top right, you can see it is a nonprofit. We're not here to make money. We're just here to spread the knowledge of crypto.
Of course, he's in the coin
we bring
vault.
Different creators on from all different walks of life. So the best super chat question, we'll save it for the 11th question. And then also, whoever wins the final verdict, for example, we have somebody in the back, Rob, Crypto Future. He's going to give it the final verdict of whoever wins this whole thing. So if, let's just say, Crypto Millie's just dusting everybody.
All right. So this is Crux of Crypto. He has some really great content. Check him out. If you're interested in crypto and stuff like that. But the whole premise of this is it's a game show, and he already kind of described what it's for. But the reason that we're watching this is there's going to be a lot of very differing opinions when he starts asking questions. People are going to have very passionate ideas, but let's see if people can have a impassioned discussion on something and keep it civil. Without personal attacks, without anything like that. It's a sharing of ideas. And the reason I wanted to talk about this tonight is there's a serious lack of this in our society these days. And I feel that is because, or what's leading to a lot of the conflict in the world. Because when you stop communicating, then that's when usually violence occurs, either verbal or physical. So with that, let's jump into it.
2029, it will never break its all-time high again.
Sure. So, I operate in DeFi on just about every chain. And, if you take a look at Cardano native DeFi, it's basically non-existent. Like there is very little liquidity there. So, if I'm working with a private client and that client has, let's say, a large ADA position, and he wants to be able to exit that position or borrow against that position, maybe access some liquidity against that position, you can't do it. You can't do it in Cardano native DeFi. Add to that the fact that Chucky, Charles Hoskinson, he just crashes out every other week, it seems like now. So what I want from a leader for a project or a protocol or a chain is I want that person to be saying, hey, you know what? This chain might not be working extremely well right now. We might not have the liquidity, but this is what I'm doing to fix that problem. And that's not what I hear from Chucky. What I hear from Chucky is, nothing good. So when I take a look at the price action on ADA, dude, isn't it at like 15 cents now? Something like that? Down from that all-time high, 17 cents? Yeah. I mean, what is that? Negative 95% from the all-time highs? Yeah. It's got a lot of work to do just to get back to those old all-time highs, man. I just don't see it, especially with no leadership.
All right, good answer. Rue, what you got?
What's up, David? Compelling argument, brother. So what's the saying? It's not what you know, it's who you know. Charles is always in the room with the right people, the Brad Garlinghouses of the world, the World Economic Forums, even though he says he doesn't like them. Exchange, LCX, they launch a lot of Cardano projects. I think Charles is playing chess while everyone's playing checkers. I think he's doing good. I think he's doing good. The price might not reflect it. Of course, this is a bear market. A lot of cryptos are down in price right now.
I can see David biting his tongue right now. He's but the reason being is, I want to hear the rest of what he has to say, but so far I haven't heard any data. I haven't heard any facts. The stuff that David has said so far, and it's not just because he's on this show. It's just he stated facts. There is no native DeFi on Cardano to speak of. There's the liquidity, the depth of liquidity isn't there for it to operate. And so far, what I've heard from the other side is that is opinion. It's that he feels or he thinks or and that's fine. You're free to feel and think how you want, but that's your own personal beliefs. It's not a universal truth. And so in debates, it's important that you stick to facts and logic, because you can argue how you feel all day long. I might feel a certain way and Jeff might feel a certain way. And we can argue about that all day long, and neither one of us is going to be right or wrong, because that's how we feel. You can't debate feelings. You have to debate facts and logic. Would you agree, Paulo?
Whenever people say that so-and-so is playing chess and not checkers, what do they mean? It's like there is a game, I cannot explain how it's been played, but there is a game within a game that eventually will work out. So I don't buy that. It's like, hey, you guys don't understand what's going on, but it will work out. Trust me. Yeah. That's what I hear.
Yeah. And he knows the right people. Just because you know the right people doesn't mean that
the World Economic Forum
shove a bunch of money to you for a project that's not generating anything.
I mean, there's value there. Don't get me wrong, but that alone, it shouldn't be a basis for an investment. Is all I'm saying. Basically basing your whole investment on a feeling, it usually doesn't work out very well. But anyway, let's go ahead and jump back into it.
And I think Midnight, with its technology, its zero proof technology, will definitely keep Cardano afloat. And one big thing, Tim Draper got I think it's 50 million in Cardano, not Cardano company, in tokens, in Cardano and ADA tokens. I don't think he's playing a losing game there. I definitely don't think he is.
David, would you like a 30-second rebuttal?
Sure. So, let's talk about Draper for a second. He's a billionaire, yeah? So that means a $50 million position for him is actually really small. And I mean, dude, I just don't see any leadership out of Chucky. Every time I see Charles Hoskinson recently, I haven't heard anything that inspires confidence. So I'm definitely bullish on, what is it called? Midnight, their privacy coin. I like that. I like that quite a bit. I could see that performing well. But, when I take a look at the DeFi TVL for Cardano, it's like, when I take a look at those protocols, they don't really work very well, and there's no liquidity there. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done. So I'm still a strongly disagree on ADA getting back to those all-time highs.
All right, Rue.
So again, I think it's all about who you know. And Draper, he is a billionaire, but he's also institutions. So DeFi in this case doesn't really matter. I think the institutions are going to come in, pump this thing up, and get it to where it needs to be.
All right, let's go ahead and reset it. Those were definitely some compelling arguments and some pro arguments. But something that I forgot to mention is we are all about trying to get the community involved. So currently on the Crypto Vault channel, there's an ongoing poll. And we're trying to get you to either agree, disagree, strongly agree, or strongly disagree. And that's the idea, is to get all of our watchers to be able to get their vote. And again, it's on that specific channel. So it's not like if your specific community votes away, it is the one where it's probably going to be the most diverse community in all of crypto, because there's going to be a ton of just different voices. There's no one face, and that's the beautiful thing of this platform. So let's go ahead and I'm actually just go ahead and move on to the second one, and then I'll come back and read the poll for that first one. But the next question is, Bitcoin has already bottomed in this cycle. Crypto Millie, what you got? You might be muted.
I must say I strongly agree here.
Strongly agree. All right, David?
Strongly disagree once more, Crux.
All righty. Shook.
Strongly disagree.
This one's going to be good. All right, Max.
Disagree.
And we got Rue.
He's muted.
You muted, Rue?
Thank you. I'll agree.
Agree. All right, so we got a strongly agree and 2 strongly disagrees. So we got Millie with the strongly agree. Millie, it's going to be tough. You got 2 different people that are at your neck. You got David, you got Shook. Floor is yours.
Look, I know it's a bear market right now, but you know the term that they say, Crux, delusional bulls eventually wins. And salute to the guys that strongly disagree. Look, this is my thesis. So it's not that I don't think that Bitcoin has bottom. I just feel like even if we chop from here, the 4-year cycle points at the bottom being somewhere between Q4. I'm gonna just say Q4. So, when you look at the historical way that markets perform post midterms, it just makes sense from a political perspective that these guys to finally push a win. Now, don't get me wrong, we got headwinds, right? I mean, we got MicroStrategy. You can look at the bond market. Y'all mentioned the yen carry trade before we went in the stream. But at the end of the day, I just think that we're at the latter stages of that. And cycles work. I believe in historical, data and points of view. And it just points that we find some sort of floor near Q4.
And just to clarify, so 57K, that is the bottom. That's your belief. Okay, let's go to.
No, you hold on, Crux. You're asking me if 57 bottom is just the bottom. Okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah. So right. 57. The floor is in. Shook and David. Let's go Shook first. Why do you think 57K is not the bottom?
I gotta keep preaching that reality is gonna set in. All we hear is shutdowns left and right, hacks left and right. Again, we had BitMEX and Bitmark, and the thing that we're forgetting about, folks in the US, is Mika. Mika is wreaking havoc overseas. I think the number was something around.
So I'm really enjoying that everyone is respecting the format. That it's Crux is giving everybody their time and their chance to say, and nobody so far has interrupted. It's
we shall see. We'll see what's going to happen.
Yeah. So, no, I just wanted to point that out.
Last time I checked, like 1,200 different crypto orgs shut down through MiCA regulations. So along with clarity, along with all this regulation, there is definitely going to be fallouts, and we got to be ready for that.
All right, David, you want to add anything to that?
Sure. So I strongly disagree with the statement that the bottom is in for this bear market for BTC. I tend to believe in the Bitcoin prophecy. That's just the halving cycle. I call it the prophecy. Yeah. But, the guy who I follow who has been very, very good at calling that Bitcoin pattern has been Benjamin Cowan, man. And so what he's been saying is, in July of the Bitcoin bear market year, the midterm year, in July, you get a rally. And so I see that rally playing out. We got a little bit of a counter trend rally. So I think that since tomorrow is August 1st, would not surprise me to see, Bitcoin roll over in the month of August. But I do think that we're going to see a trough for Bitcoin by the beginning of October. And I think that trough could come in right around those August 2024 lows. That was the Japanese yen unwind, that carry trade unwind back in August of 2024. Those lows come in at like 49K. So, it wouldn't surprise me to see Bitcoin make a move down towards those lows, especially if that AI trade unwinds a little bit more. So we've got a Bank of Japan rate decision later on this evening. And look, I don't have a crystal ball. I wish I did, but I think that Bitcoin's getting up towards some resistance. I don't think the bottom is in. And I think that the last point that I'll make here, Crux, everyone, is those Bitcoin ETF products that launched in January of 2024, those products had the effect of compressing Bitcoin's volatility. So the vol went from like 70% to 40%. And so with compressing vol, that means you get smaller expected moves. So I think this is going to be the shallowest Bitcoin bear market in history. I don't think the bottom's in yet, though. Q4 for sure.
All right. Since it's 2-on-1 and y'all are jumping my boy, he gets a rebuttal. Nobody else gets one.
It was a token.
Millie, what you got?
He's the token.
I would push back.
Yeah, dude, it's a struggle. Like debating David is a struggle because I do it daily on the show, and it's hard because he knows his shit. He is dialed in when it comes to facts and data, so it makes me up my game. So anybody that's watched our show, the Node, you've seen me and him go head to head about Arrow. And a lot of the times, I'll look stuff up while he's talking, and I'm like, oh shit, I don't have a rebuttal because he's right. But if he doesn't, I'll like dig my heels in. I'll be like, like with the definition of revenue, I'm like, listen, the rest of the world, this is the accepted definition of revenue, and like you have your own personal definition, so I'll like dig. It's like one of the few times I've ever been right. So yeah, I feel for these guys, having to.
It seems that all of them agree on this one. Actually, it seems that actually all of them agree. It seems that all of them agree on this point.
Well, the guy in the top right.
But when he speaks, it seems that he's agreeing.
Yeah, he said it
he
was
claimed otherwise,
mostly gonna be
but
choppy.
It
was mostly gonna be choppy and probably not much lower, is what he made it sound like. If we did go further down, but
Crux said, so you think 57K is the bottom, and he was like, and he ended up saying, oh yeah, okay, yeah. So he feels like 57K is the bottom. All right,
back a little against the stock thing, right? We've already seen AI stocks kind of like correct a bit, but Bitcoin didn't move. The diminishing perspective that you mentioned works both ways. So yeah, it could be just as diminished as far as the length or how low we may go. So I'm not saying that we're just going to, explode from here. I'm just to the belief that 57 may be the lowest that we go. And even if we chop from here out, I still believe on that in that timeline as far as the 4-year cycle. And not to add, there's also $300 billion in stable coins on the sidelines, just waiting to flow into the market. I know many would say the Clarity Act, but the Clarity Act is like a bonus. It's like a tailwind. So the money is waiting to go into the markets. Many people believe that Bitcoin is this sound money. It never had an opportunity to really prove itself. I would say it's still a risk asset, but I think if you look at the Fed's balance sheet, that's expanding. PMI is above 50 now. That's another point of, okay, we got something working in our favor. So I agree with what you guys are saying, but I just think that lower than 57, I just can't go with that. I'm just going to do.
All right. We spent a lot of time on this one. You guys had some really good points. No, you're good. Let's go ahead and reset this. All right. So let's take it back a little bit real quick to answer number one, since I didn't have the polls up. But Cardano will eventually break its all-time high was the very first question. And at least 80 to 85% of you guys said disagree. So you guys were not able to, I forgot exactly who was preaching on behalf of Cardano. You were not able to win over the community. But let's go ahead and check this next poll of Bitcoin. Has it already bottomed this cycle? And it looks like disagree wins again. So most likely Bitcoin is not bottomed yet. So, all right. So let's go ahead and jump into question number 3. Will Bitcoin reach a new all-time high before the end of 2027? So just to clarify, all-time high 126K. Will we pass through $126,000 by December 31st of 2027? Millie, what you got?
I disagree.
All right, David.
I agree.
All righty, Focus.
Agree.
Max.
Agree.
And Rue.
I agree.
All right, y'all are no fun on this one, but it's 3-2. It's pretty split still. So, yeah, this is clearly the most divided one, but it's the one without conviction.
David
So
might
it's
make some
very
black friends.
interesting. I want to
this
hear y'all's
episode.
take on it, but we're just now tuning in. The question is, will Bitcoin reach a new all-time
Oh,
high
I just
before the
noticed
end of
that.
next year? I want to throw a quick context on this. Now, I'm not here to give my point or anything,
I don't see
but
color.
I act kind of as a
David's
fact
the
checker
token.
because we all love fact
He's
checkers.
the token.
So I try to remain as
Yeah,
unbiased as
that's what you were
possible.
saying earlier.
But it takes half as long typically every single cycle to reach a new all-time high. So it took 1 year from the bear market bottom to get back to the bull market peak, or the bull market peak to a new all-time high. So a lot of people think when we bottom out, it should be about 6 months or so, which would be like Q2 of next year. That's a pretty broadly accepted thing. So let's go ahead and push it over to Crypto Millie. Why do you disagree?
I believe that it'll play around near that price. But as far as how the 4-year cycle works, I think the following year is when it really gets kind of exploding post halving. I haven't checked the timeline, but I don't believe that's after post halving. So my answer is tied to that specifically.
All right, David.
I mean, look, I agree with what Millie said. I do. It's just that I do think that the Fed is going to be forced to do some type of big print. And so I think about what's the denominator, right? Like Bitcoin measured in dollars. Well, hey, if that denominator becomes much less valuable because the Fed is forced to step in and intervene and buy treasuries and print, I don't know, man. I want to put my money where my mouth is. I'm going to be buying Bitcoin in October of this year. I would love to see it print a fresh all-time high at like 130 by the end of 2027. So that's what I think. I think it's going to do that. I believe in Bitcoin.
Good take, David. Focus, what you got?
Yeah, agreeing. Again, assuming we see that dip before the end of Q2 next year, then we got time to cover some ground. Bitcoin now is not what it was the last time it ran up. It's got a lot more institution ETF movement behind it. Bitcoin can rally in a minute.
All right, Max.
Yeah, I'll make this just short and brief. I think you have to pay attention to, one of you guys got some real bad echo, just giving you a heads up. I think you have to pay attention to some of that historical cycle, like you guys mentioned. I'm in alignment with what you have shared in your deep dives and your coverage. Crux, same as basically Big Rob.
Oh, what now?
Somebody really needs to hit the
Yeah,
button.
whoever got the sirens on, that'll throw me off in the intro, but no.
Got sirens in the
I don't have much
background.
more to share, really. I look at the historical cycle, and again, maybe bottom by 2026. I'm in alignment with you, Crux, on that one. I think there's something there with that. Anyway.
All right, Rue, why do you agree Bitcoin will reach a new all-time high by the end of next year?
You kind of stole my thunder there, Crux. Yeah, every cycle has moved faster than the other one, right? And for the first time ever, Bitcoin reached an all-time high before the halving this cycle, right? So I think that's the new normal, right? The only thing that holds me back a little bit is like it just barely did it before the halving cycle. So I'm just at agree, but I think the new normal may be that Bitcoin reaches a new all-time high before that.
Yeah, the last bull market, it had the ETFs, which definitely helped push that. They got approved in like January, and then Ethereum got one approved. So that probably had a good play in it. But everybody had a good take here. Let's go ahead and resort to what the audience thinks. Currently, the ongoing poll is 56% agree. That's a close one. So most people do agree that will be Bitcoin reach a new all-time high by 2027? Yes. So not by a lot, but you guys did a really good job on that one. Just real quick, if you're just now tuning in, we all have, we're all here helping each other. And if you can go down and subscribe to each of our channels, we would definitely appreciate that. Also, if you send a super chat, we'll select one of them at the end of the stream, and we'll add that as an 11th question if it is the winning one. So we appreciate everything that you guys are doing and supporting us. And let's go ahead and get right back into it. Question number 4, we got the ETF flows. Replace the 4-year cycle by 2029. So let me say that again. The ETF flows replace the 4-year cycle by 2029. Millie, what you got?
Disagree.
All right, David.
I disagree also.
So yeah, I mean it's been pretty civil so far.
Mhm.
I mean, it's you know, like I said, I mean this is very refreshing to watch because you know obviously people are very passionate about crypto. They're very passionate about investing. You know we see it all the time. You know on our live show today, you know on the Node, you know we had a lot of XRP people in
Ooh,
there.
yeah.
Let's wait until they start talking about XRP. That's what I want to see.
Well, but you know, but they're very passionate, and it's okay to be passionate, but again, you know without facts and data to support your passion or your beliefs, then you're impassioned about your feelings, you know, and so the reason I bring this up is anytime you find yourself in you know a verbal confrontation or you know before it leads to a physical one, and you're talking with someone, you need to ask yourself, is this something that I just strongly believe in, or is this you know something that's just the way that it is? Like, is it a societal norm? You know, that is a universal truth, because you know that is a foundation that you can stand on. You know, like in a court of law, you know, facts and logic for the you know the way that courts are supposed to work is it's you know the rule of law is very black and white. You know, it takes out emotion, it takes out you know personal beliefs. It's just you know thou shalt not kill. You know, murder is against the law. If you know you can be proven to you know with facts and data and evidence and you know that you are guilty, then you know you get punished. If you're innocent, then you walk free. But of course, you know everyone's very passionate in there, especially the person that's you know been charged. But you know, if you don't have a court of law, then things are settled like they were in the Old West, where if I believe that Jeff stole my horse, then it was legal for me to shoot it. I didn't have to have any evidence. You know, I didn't have to have anything. I could just shoot Jeff or you know string him up if I thought he was a horse thief. You know, or I thought that he robbed me at cards, like he was cheating at poker. You know, there's no court of law. That's just I was angry because I lost at cards, and you know, instead of talking about it, I you know go out and I have a gunfight with Jeff.
Right.
So
yeah. If you don't have
that's why-
a dialogue, if you
Yeah.
don't have a dialogue, you're going to resort to the judicial system. And if that doesn't solve, you might say, I'm going to take care of it.
No, but that's why civil discourse is so important. You know, that's
Yeah.
why being able to have a logical, fact-based conversation is so important, because if you don't, bad things happen. And you know, history has proven that time and time
Right.
again.
Well, real quick, there.
Right, focus.
I saw a video yesterday. This girl who was being interviewed by some guy, and she was they were talking about socialism, and he was asking her, "Oh, it was Nick Shirley," and
Okay.
this girl was saying that she thinks prisons should be abolished and all this stuff, and he was like, "Well, what if somebody you know raped you and was out in the street?" And she was like, "Well, I have been raped, and he is out on the streets," and all. She was going through her whole thing, and she said, "Well, I feel like." The way that we perceive criminals and crime is she went through this whole spiel, and I was like, so your feelings about criminals and how we lock them up and handle it doesn't jive well with you. It doesn't mean that it's like. I was like, your feelings are one thing, but the facts are if they commit a crime, they need to be punished in some way. You know, just because they might be having something wrong within themselves doesn't negate the fact that they harmed somebody or did something wrong. You know,
Well,
you shouldn't.
Oh, go ahead.
And she was just saying how her feelings are a way to justify the fact that we should abolish prisons and
I mean, if you look at it, you know, even universally accepted beliefs, you know, like religions, you know, where large, you know, groups of people all feel the same way. You know, there's been some religions throughout history that, you know, it was okay to kill people to, you know, to satisfy gods. You know, ancient Rome and you know, the Aztecs and Mayans, and you know, there was a lot of cultures and civilizations that was acceptable. But you know, then you know, but you know, it becomes very complex, because then it's just majority rules, or you know, there is very specific cases where facts are what they are regardless of what the majority says. You know, so you know, the fact that the universe, you know, that the earth revolves around the sun. There was plenty of people throughout history that thought that everything revolved around the earth. That didn't make it true. That was just the accepted belief. So, you know, it's important to understand that you need to accept new information. You know, so even if something is a universal truth right now, doesn't mean it's right, but you know, you need to be open to other ideas, because when you integrate new information into your point of view or your belief system, it allows you to expand your knowledge on the topic. So it doesn't mean it's right. It, you know, doesn't mean you have to accept it, but you know, understanding where other people are coming from gives you like me and David, when we you know, debate Arrow, there's a lot of stuff he says that is factually correct, and I can't argue with it. There's some stuff that he said that I wasn't sure about, and I had to go and research, and he ended up being right. But it's my thesis has evolved on Arrow because I was open to new information, you know, presented in a logical, fact-based way, like David tends to do, as you've seen on the show here. So, yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say is that without civil discourse, you don't grow. Your society doesn't grow; it degrades.
But do you think, I agree with you that like logic and facts are the way that we should go by, and we should base our decisions on that. However, do you, Jeff and Mike, do you think that most people, they go by facts and logic or emotions?
Most people these days, I think, are very emotionally driven, unfortunately.
Yeah, same. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, let's move
All
on.
right, let's see if we watch a little bit more. See if this degrades into chaos.
Disagree.
Max?
I agree.
Let's fast forward.
Andrew?
Oh yeah, they're getting
And
into
I think-
on-chain revenue right now.
Okay.
This time is different.
I want to see what the next question is.
Yeah, on-chain revenue is the most important thing when
The more
buying
you know.
a project.
Right.
Yeah.
But those have to accrue back to
Oh yeah.
We got one person who's teetering agree, so it's probably not going to be as eventful as I thought it'd be. I tried to trip you up, David, but you actually picked it first. So let me hear your take first, David. I want to hear why.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, you need big revenues. So, you know, we've been talking a lot at the Node Network about the trifecta. You know, we came up with this so-called trifecta. And basically what it is you need real users, real user growth. There needs to be product market fit. And those users on that chain or protocol or coin or whatever, they need to drive real revenues. Okay, so you need those first two items, but then those revenues, they need to accrue to you, the token holder. So it's not just about the revenues. You really need to see those revenues return back to you. So yeah, if you've got revenues, awesome, love it. But those have to accrue back to you. If they don't, then you're just kind of holding a meme. Like we see so many different coins where the protocol, the coin, whatever, it generates a ton of revenues, a ton of free cash flow. But if that doesn't come back to you, then it's like, hey, where's my money, man? You know, so the revenues are great, but they got to come back to you, the token holder, in some way.
All right, I'm gonna go around the room with this question real quick. David, if you want to give your take first, if it's not the most important, then what is the most important for buying a project? If you had to choose one, is it the visionary? Is it the out of the tokenomics? If you had to choose one thing for buying a project, what do you think the most important thing is?
So let me start by saying I know what to avoid. And sometimes inversing this stuff is important. And what you want to avoid is, you know, a project where there are no revenues. You want to avoid a project where like the founder is crashing out on YouTube every week. You want to avoid a project where there's no one using it. There's no users. So, but what you really want though, is you want a combination of those three, you know, so you want,
I'm not going to be able to break you. I'm just trying to get just one. Boom, you got one. You don't have to give an
Welcome
answer.
to my world. Trying to
So if I had to pick one crux, oh man, it would be value accrual, that value accrual mechanism. You know, you could have like very few users, poor product market fit, doesn't drive much revenues, but if the tokenomics are super solid, you might see number go up for the coin. So,
all right, good takes. Millie, that actually surprised me on this one too. What would you be your most important thing in terms of buying a crypto project?
Look, revenue matters, man. But like my guy just said, that revenue has to accrue value to the token holders. I think Hype gave like the perfect blueprint, right? You got the revenue, accrues the value, you burn, you create scarcity, kind of like the whole marketing aspect. But just the whole, you know, it eliminates the speculation, right? Because let's be real, we're in a world of hyper gambler-ification. So what I've noticed just being in the Bitensor ecosystem, right? You can have the smartest mind, you can be the crack that tech, but if no one knows about what you're doing, if it's not out there, you have no users, and if you have no users, you have no network effect. So kind of like my guy was saying, you got to have like a blend of those things. But what I've noticed in crypto, the best marketing, and I know it's going to sound crazy, is price go up, green candles.
Yep. All right, Schick Focus, if you had to choose one thing.
I had to choose one thing. If you make me choose one, timing. Timing, I would say, is the most important, because there's so many different things that could swing a project. It can be making money, and then all of a sudden, one bad piece of sentiment and you're fried. An example like Axelar caught the cyber attack June 19th, downtrend, straight downtrend ever since. There's so many different things that could swing it. But again, if you're able to get in and make your money before they got to this point where it's like, is there any value in the token anymore? And they got all this bad sentiment, then you're happy. But yeah, it's all about timing.
All right, we're gonna do Rue, and then we'll come right back to you, Max, because you were kind of like agree and disagree. I kind of want to see what your second one would be. But Rue, what would get you to buy a project if you can only choose one thing?
See, that's a tough question because you say just only to use one thing, and it's not just one thing. But for me, I guess it's like partnerships might be the biggest one, because like, let's take Canton, which I like Canton a lot, right? There's so much revenue, on-chain revenue going to Canton. But, you know, on the other side of that is they have a lot of great partners, right? So it's like, okay, tokenomics, like you can't just pick one thing. But for me, I guess it would be partners, but tokenomics are important too. We all know that Canton has the burn and all of that. So for me, I'll say partners.
All right. And
partners and tokenomics. I can't just choose one side.
I mean, this is definitely the toughest question. And then Max.
Yeah. Sure. You know, I guess since I'm forced to pick one, rightfully so, I will go with capturing the value, like value transfer. Guys, we know basically years ago, especially with Ethereum, 2021 going into 2022's bear market. Technically speaking, that was one of the slowest networks at the time, right? The gas is a lot different now, and rightfully so. So when I talk about capturing value, you have one of the slowest tech stacks out there that still did a great job of capturing value. Sure, extremely slow, extremely expensive, but it captured that value. And with that also said, the settlement. So while that's very, very expensive, what did we see reflective in that? We did see significant upside in the price. In fact, we saw 2021 all-time highs at that particular point. We've seen other ones that are pretty close to that, to say the least. But I do have to agree, this is where I'm kind of split. I do agree with Millie's statements. I do agree with David's statements. And that is basically when we talk about these fees, the revenue model and whatnot, well, that right there is the clear signal of what? Real product, market fit. So again, value capture. I go back to that. And there's still a lot of other factors that count. Again, back to what Rue was stating, I do put a lot of emphasis on partners. Again, like I know some of you guys aren't fans of Ripple, but I look at like, yeah, Ripple with XRP, it may not have the fastest blockchain out there.
Here we go.
They definitely have the partners. So all those factors, that's why I feel the way I feel.
Yeah, pulled the XRP out of this one. I didn't want to see any black eyes, so I think that one would cause too many fighting with XRP. But I will
He
say,
already knows.
if Elon Musk created an ice cream parlor, I would invest in it. That being said, I think visionaries are the number one thing to invest in. But it's not about what I think; it's about what the polls think. So, looking at 75% of you would actually agree that fee revenue or that on-chain revenue is the most important thing when buying a project. So that one surprised me. 3 out of 4 of you. So definitely good takes. It is halftime. So that means you guys need to go down and subscribe to each and every one of us. We are definitely here delivering the alpha, and make sure you share it out with somebody and hit that like button. All right, let's move on to question number 6. This one's interesting. Talking about Elon Musk. Will Elon Musk return to crypto like he did in 2021?
No.
Millie, what you got?
I agree. He'll do some soft
Right.
shields.
Honestly, I don't really.
Yeah.
He
I
owns Bitcoin with Tesla. So
Let's fast forward.
He's got the optimist.
Seems that he's playing a whole different game today.
I don't think he'll be back like he
All the
was.
lack of clarity.
I just don't think that it really matters. Oh, what happened?
Hit
Because
There we go.
there's a lot of overlap, a lot of integrations. And one thing that was mentioned a while back from both Solana and even the X Money development team was this thing called cash tags. Literally, that's what it's called, right? So you had verification of Solana with that, and you had verification from the X side. One more key thing, and I'll kick back to you guys. Quant Network, believe it or not, we have proof of integration. We see it in the orchestration stack, and 2 instances from Gilbert Verdian having conversations with Elon Musk. And 2019 was the first time. The second time was a follow-up. So these guys communicate, I think, with clarity. You start seeing somebody like Musk, X Money, saying, hey, you know what? We do have this thing integrated. But currently speaking, at surface value or face value, they got to say nope, because they don't want to get attacked any much more than the next guy.
All right. We got any other? Millie, it looked like you had something. Are you good?
Well, I just look at it at the crypto sits directly in that cross section between the advancements of AI. So when you think about machine to machine transactions and how it will transact, he cannot dodge that. You think about the decentralized perspectives of just spatial data or choke points like water rights. What happens when you run into that choke point from a physical perspective, which is water rights? You will need an alternative to compute. So all of these avenues and cross sections lead right back to crypto in some way. So I do see him interacting with cryptocurrency at some point.
All right, Dave, you want to get a quick take, or are you good?
Sure, just real quick. He's been a hodler for a long time. And he's got a bunch of Muskisms, right? Like he's got these little sayings. One of them is something like the most ironic outcome is the most likely. So when he says that Dogecoin is going to rule the world or whatever he said, I think that, I tend to agree about clarity. So I think that once they know what is really legal in the United States, then maybe you see digital assets get integrated into X payments. It wouldn't surprise me to see Musk take a bigger position in digital assets moving forward. I'm bullish on Musk. I like the visionary aspect too.
Yeah, if Dogecoin is illegal, we march at dawn because these meme coins, we need to make sure they survive. All right, let's check out what the
one thing, if I can.
Yeah. Okay.
And shout out to Millie. You made me think of this. The machine-to-machine payments. You can track Cross River also to Visa, and Visa you can track the Stripe, and both of those members are members of the X402 Foundation, and X402 was built specifically for machine-to-machine, agent-to-agent, agent-to-robot payments. And you got the Optimus bot, which I think Shook mentioned earlier. So yeah, it's on like popcorn when we get all of these robots out here, and you can have those robots communicating to Bluetooth and automated cars. Like, he's here.
On like
yeah. So the
popcorn.
community
That's the
thinks we're
first
going to be
one.
powering up robots with Dogecoin. 75% of you said that Elon Musk is going to make his return, and I think we're right. So we'll see. All right, this question, the most subjective question coming at you. We will see who says what, but you're giving $1,500 for free, $1,500. What if on Robinhood is better than putting that $1,500 into Bitcoin? Millie, what you got?
I'm chucking it straight in the meme. Full port in the whole 15. Let's
Hell
go.
no.
I strongly agree.
Chance in hell.
All right, David.
Yeah, I'm going with BTC. 100% BTC.
Disagree or strongly disagree?
Oh yeah, no, strongly disagree on if. I'm going with the Bitcoin, not with the meme coin.
Yeah. Okay, my bad. I could have questioned that a lot better. So Shook Focus, what you got?
Yeah, disagree.
Disagree. All right, Max.
This is new question number 7, correct?
Yeah, it'll be $1,500 in what if is better than $1,500 in Bitcoin.
Okay, just making sure the question because I didn't see splash on the screen. So yeah, I'm going to strongly disagree.
Alrighty. And then Aru, what you got?
It's a tough question as worded, but I'll just disagree.
All right. So we got a three-person feud. We got Millie, you got to defend yourself. They're finna, hey.
I'm not mad at it, man.
They're ready to jump you. You got to show out.
Look. If we're specifically talking about Robinhood chain, man, it's liquid. You got the founder behind it. This is one of the strongest communities that I've personally seen since the Pepe's, the Sheem, as far as like organic, because I'm in that space of being a key opinion leader. So I know what projects are talking to people with, who they're trying to, solicit and things of that sort. This has been like straight grassroots. I got into the project at 100K, by the way. So you know what I mean? When I say that, I say community tokens don't have a cap to valuations, right? You don't look for team. You don't look for revenue. You don't look for any of that. It's just purely vibes, network effects, and growth. And the one thing that I've personally been noticing about it is the holder count is growing. The Telegram chats, as far as live Telegram chats, are now went from 50 to 100 of people, just growing each day, and they're only talking about if. So as far as potential, yeah, it would be, I use Bitcoin for a savings account. It's like a savings account on steroids for me. But when things get boring, as long as you practice risk management, meaning that you have a consistent capital, consistent income, right? Not financial advice. There will be opportunities on chain. You can use these opportunities to take profits and compound them into your Bitcoin, into your utility play. So it doesn't have to be this impulsive tribalism. It could just be a short-term play, a move that allows you to
if you pick the wrong
gain capital to invest into your utilities use cases.
Depends on when you get in and when you get out.
I think there's opportunity there.
What's that?
It depends on when you get in and when you get out. It can be way more profitable than Bitcoin. It just depends on when.
Well, it can be, but
You can.
there's a lot that don't. There's a lot more that don't than that do. We'll just put it that way.
I think it's very hard to choose. That's a thing. Like, it's very hard to choose something other than Bitcoin and say, yeah, that's a very good bet. It's very hard.
But when it comes to meme coins, unless you're very entrenched in that ecosystem, by the time you hear about it, people are taking profits. You know, I mean, like that's. I mean, Jeff, am I wrong?
No, nope.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just.
By the time you hear about it, it's already boom.
If you're hearing about it on social media and stuff, it's already made it probably most of its move, if not all of it. And the people that are buying it because they saw it on TikTok and they saw it on
Yeah,
YouTube,
you're late. Yeah, but it sounds like that
You're late.
guy
You're
is in it. So if
You're-
you're in it and you're watching it and you like it, you know,
Well,
there are
when
people
did
that
you get
make a
into
lot of
sheep,
money in it.
Mike?
It was a total accident. It was the
Yeah.
first thing it was the first crypto I ever bought. I went down to town. I had been working on my cabin all day. I didn't have water. I didn't have power. So I took a bath in the creek and put on my best duds. Went down to town, got myself a chicken fried steak with mashed potatoes,
Ooh,
and I
mhm.
was scrolling through my phone and on social media, and I think it was TikTok, and I ran across a post about sheep. And I thought about, in like 2011 or 2012 when my buddy was telling me about Bitcoin and I laughed at him. And he ended up making a bunch of money in it. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna put some money into crypto because I know myself. If I get involved in it, then I'm gonna go deep. I'm gonna like research it. Because I'm invested. And so I, threw like $200 in, like I always do on stuff. I put $200 in it to see what it would do, and it pumped. Like I got in before it made any moves. So it kind of invalidates what I was trying to just say. But that was
But that's
a long.
fun, you know.
No,
Why
it is.
can't we have a little bit of fun while
No,
doing
you
this? You know,
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You can have fun and put a little bit of money into a couple.
I remember a time not
Just
long
don't
ago
ape in.
that you could make a bunch of money with fart coin. You know,
Yeah.
Who would have thunk? Who would have thunk that you could get rich on something called fart coin?
right?
But I just got lucky. It was just
Yeah.
one of those projects that I saw it before anybody else. Like it was just I happened to catch it just right because I was going through and I saw it and I was like, how do I buy this? And it was on Coinbase. So I put in my information, created an account, and put $200 in it. And I just happened to be one of the first people that got in. But it's gotten, I mean, it used to be a meme coin lasted like weeks, if not months.
Right. If not months.
Now it's like a day or two is a
But
long
that's the
time.
thing, Mike. I believe that in the coming months, maybe next year, a lot of it's going to be back. Not like the old, I don't know, maybe there's going to be like a new fart coin, a new meme coin, a new fun thing that people are going to bet on. And we are likely to have a completely different scene, you know?
Yeah. All right, let's see if we got a little bit more of this.
Specifically on Robinhood chain. And when these chains are early, because this is not Sui, this is not Say, this is not Aptos, this is like Robinhood. Okay. Robinhood. Their TXs are setting records when compared to Solana and Coinbase. So
But what is
that activity alone will onboard new people. It's
but what does that mean for the IF token? Like, IF is a meme coin. It has, other than it's on the Robinhood chain, what connection does it have to Robinhood or the revenue that's generated on the on the Robinhood chain? Because it doesn't have a token, is my understanding.
It depends
Does-
if you're thinking short term or long term. Long term, you're right.
But I mean,
Maybe short
but I mean,
term.
short
is
or
right.
long term, what he's talking about is, he's talking about Robinhood, and he's talking about Robinhood's connection with the IF token. But it's like in my mind, it's the fact is that there's no connection between the two. So like basing an
Oh, is there?
investment
Okay, I'm not aware of
doesn't
that.
make sense to me. Is there a Robinhood token, Jeff? I don't think there is.
Hood.
Right.
Are you sure?
It's a stock.
Yeah, the stock. But is there a token?
Oh no, they
don't
launched a
think-
chain though, but they haven't launched.
Yeah,
a token.
no. Yeah, they launched the chain because that IF meme token is on the Robinhood chain.
And if I'm
Okay.
not mistaken, Cash Cat is a meme from the Robinhood chain.
That was the one that just exploded
Yeah.
a few weeks ago, huh?
Well, Cash Cat had a massive pullback. I haven't looked at it recently, but it had a massive pullback.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's watch some more.
Retail friendly. The UX, the UI feels like I'm using Robinhood. So alone, you got Bitcoin is born right now. You got if it just went from 100K to 16 million. People want to be a part of a feel good story. What's the story for Bitcoin right now?
I'm trying to be part of a free dinner, and you just made a ton of money. So, hey, you got dinner tonight. All right. So, Max, you go ahead and take this away. Why are you taking the Bitcoin over the what if?
So in reality, this question is a catch-22. Okay, I completely, yeah, exactly. I completely agree with the statements from Millie. And by the way, Millie, absolutely awesome having you here, brother. So I want to state this, that there's so much to unpack here, but like, even when we compare it with my story, I came into like Dogecoin. I came into Dogecoin where? On Robinhood, just as Millie pointed out, it came in at a penny. Well, looking at it from an X perspective, like a multiplier, I did about 71 to 72X. Didn't listen to everybody else out there saying it's going to go to $1. Got out roughly at that particular price. And you know what? It's been legendary. With that also said, yes, I recognize what Millie states. At the same time, the reason why I'm stating it's a double-edged sword or catch-22 with the question, right, is because we know that if, no bash on it, speculative meme coin. Yeah, it's on Robinhood, so that's a little bit different. We got to treat it a little bit different, but currently speaking, on the bigger picture, tiny liquidity from what I gathered. And again, the risk. So if you compare it long-term to BTC, well, then that's superior. And again, the proven long-term, quote-unquote, store value. And I know a lot of people are going to get ticked off with me stating that because a lot of people hate BTC. It is what it is. But yeah, it's really, it's a catch-22 question.
All right. David, you want to add anything to that? Why Bitcoin over the hot meme coin? People are starting to see on the Twitterverse. What you got, David?
Yeah, man. So look, Millie's not wrong. In fact, he made some great points. Like the only problem is, on the risk management point, most people don't know what the hell that means. So most people are going to full port into a meme coin and then watch it dump, and then you're stuck, eating like a 50% loss or more.
Dave, this question is, does Dave put $1,500 into what if or Bitcoin? You're not most people.
Oh man,
Dave, you look kind of dejed. Dave, you look kind of dejed, bro. If I know a dejed, I know one, man.
I've done it. It's just like, man, look, if I'm taking $1,500 right now, I'm not putting it into a $15 million market cap meme coin with 500K liquidity. I'm putting that $1,500 into BTC, holding it for 3 years, and hopefully exiting with a 4-bagger or a 5-bagger. That's what I'm going to do.
I love the takes. All right, let's go ahead and
Hey, Mike. Rob. So yeah, a little clarification. You were asking for the facts and data. So Robinhood, do they have a native crypto token? The answer is no. They do have an equity share called Hood. Yeah, but that's for TradFi. And the if token is just a meme token on the Robinhood chain. So it's called Impossible Finance, it seems. But it's nothing related to...
There's nothing finance about it.
Right.
That's why it's impossible, Mike. It's impossible.
It is. Yeah, you're right. It is impossible finance.
The chat while we're at it as well. So $1,500 into what if on Robinhood? All right. All right, so we got two strongly disagrees. We got David, we got Rue, and they're gonna try to jump Max. So if you can get the gulag going up here, let's get it. All right.
Calling Vault crime. This is not good.
Yeah, this is Max. We got it out for you on this one. What you got, Max?
Oh, that's a funny remark from our Coin Vault brother Rue, right? Yeah, guys. So, I mean, I realize the criticism, right? At face value, people are going to be like, I disagree with all that because regulatory clarity would help. But, when we talk about macro, again, earlier, some of the earlier questions like the ETFs, the treasury flows, you got to reference that. Like broader adoption, people always point that out. Like, those remain the larger drivers, and rightfully so. You would be right? Well, people say, well, it's not the single biggest thing, right? Again, when I see people one person, Senator Lummis, literally just saying, we got to get this Clarity Act thing going, reaching across party lines, stating, look, we really, really need this. We need cooperation. It's not about her. It's not about one party. I'm looking at it from a perspective, again, you guys know I do a lot of deep dive research. I look at those white papers, and I understand that it's one thing to have opinions, but when I see literally in institutional white papers that literally state that you need real clarity moving forward for even somebody, when we talk about some of these alts, I know some of you guys don't like some of these alts, like our XRPs, that central banks, commercial banks, and whatnot, they can't hold it on their balance sheet, but one of the biggest driving forces for them to hold it is to see real clarity, because things will change. I say to myself, what is Ripple's main product? On-demand liquidity. Right now, it doesn't look like it's in too much demand, right? But everything changes with that clarity. When we talk about utility, that changes. So to me, I have to strongly disagree, but at the same time, I see the point that people make when it comes to the macro side of it, right? That, you know, the liquidity in that, and again, the treasury flows. We can talk till we're blue in the face about it. I understand both points of view on that.
All right, let's go with David first on why the Clarity Act is not the biggest catalyst currently in the market for crypto.
Yeah, so I mean, if I want to just keep it super simple, it's because everyone thinks it's going to be a big catalyst. What happened with the Genius Act? Hey, people were saying, oh, we get Genius Act, we'll go to Valhalla. Nothing happened there. Number did not go up. And so I don't think that what's good for institutions is good for retail. So, the language that we've seen in the Genius Act tells me that, hey, they want to keep all that yield for themselves. By law, that Genius Act, tether and circle these payment stablecoin providers. They can't pass along that treasury yield to the holders of USDC and USDT. And so whenever I see a big banking cartel saying, hey, we've got to get this Clarity Act passed, dude, that's not good for us. It's not going to be good for us. So I'm a builder. I build in Web3 and in crypto. And if I suddenly have to raise 7 figures to hire attorneys to take care of compliance before I can launch a product for US American customers, then I'm going to build somewhere else. I think that clarity is going to have the effect, if it ever passes, which is dubious. I think it's going to have the effect, if it passes, of pushing innovation to Southeast Asia and to Latin America. I think that's where a builder, an innovator with a laptop and an idea is going to move to, because you're not going to be able to do it legally in the United States anymore. I think that they're going to essentially lock out all the individual builders. It's going to be great for the big companies that have a lot of money to hire attorneys, not for the little guy. I think it'll be net negative for us.
I'll add a little clarity to this, pun intended. We have about a 28% probability currently with the very low amount of liquidity on Polymarket for passing this year alone. So it's going to be tough, but we will see. Now that thing is flipped like a light switch. But Rue, I want to hear your take on why the
I got to jump off, guys.
It isn't the biggest because
we can wrap this up. I mean, we're over time anyway.
I do appreciate him having David on, though. After the whole skerfuffle and shit last month, it's refreshing to.
What happened last month? I didn't watch.
And a good debate.
Nothing. We don't need to revisit.
Yeah.
All right. So let's see. What am I looking at here? Yeah, let's do
It wasn't XRP.
What's that?
It wasn't XRP.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, no, this was just an exercise in seeing if and it was very refreshing to see that they were able to have obviously people had very differing opinions, but they were able to discuss. They were able to share their points of view in a very respectful, very calm manner. And from this, I mean, I know from listening to it that I heard some points from people with points of view that differ from mine, but they had some valid points that make me want to think deeper about my own personal thoughts, on some of these projects and things like that. So I guess my closing thoughts are that I think we can all do better with listening to opposing points of view, and people tend to be a lot more open to listening when you're not attacking. So, and I know it's something that I could work on. I just once somebody starts opening that door where they want to start doing the personal attacks, it's like blood in the water for a shark for me. Being in the military for 22 years, if I see this weakness, because to me that's weakness. That means that you ran out of logical things to say. You don't have a strong argument, so you resort to personal attacks. To me, that's a sign of weakness, and so that's when I move in and go to town. But I can get better at that. So Jeff, closing thoughts.
It was just refreshing to see everyone having a nice civil discussion and not like you said, not attacking each other. And it does make it easier to watch and listen and be open and receptive to other people's ideas. Even if you don't agree, it's like, okay, well, let me just put my emotions aside for right now, even though, and David does that really well. He 99% of the time,
What about that 1%?
I'd say more like 80% or 90%.
80.
Yeah,
he'll sit there and bite his tongue and wait for them to stop talking. He won't interrupt. It's but everyone else, was really respectful, and it was nice to see, having a good discussion and allowing everyone to speak their mind. So yeah, we need more of that.
Absolutely. Paulo.
Closing thoughts. I'm not gonna lie. I get very entertained when people get really passionate about things. I think it makes for a great show. I'm not against that at all. I love passionate discussions, but let's meet again and we can keep on talking.
It's because you're from Brazil. You're from you're Latin.
It might be. You're right about that. But don't you think, for example, I watched the node earlier today, and you guys were talking about XRP. I don't know if you guys had a great time doing that. As a viewer, I had a great time watching it.
Oh.
So whenever we have this kind of back and forth, and people say, "Oh no," and then. I'm very entertained. I'm not going to lie. When people get into personal attacks and say, "You're not allowed to say that," I think it's very entertaining, But I think we should keep the conversation going, with passion, without passion. I think we should keep the conversation going. And of course, when it comes to decision, and especially financial decisions, we should stick to hard data, facts and data. So we can know to have a rational decision, but we can have fun getting really passionate discussions, because I think it's very entertaining to watch and to be in.
I think the thing that's frustrating for me is
and we can be friends. We can be friends.
Well, but like with today's show, with the people that were bullish about XRP in the chat. What the only thing that's frustrating for me is, for years, me and Jeff have been warning people about XRP, and for years I've challenged anybody, and on other projects too. I've challenged anybody to come live on the show, other content creators. I'm like, come live on the show. And Crux, actually, that's how we met. Crux he was one of the few that wanted to talk about Kita and his bullish take on it, and so he was willing to come on the show and actually discuss with us, his bullish take, and it was a great show. But with XRP, I've challenged Good Evening Crypto, I've challenged Mickle, I've challenged all the XRP maxis or anybody that is very knowledgeable about it to come on and prove me wrong. But it's frustrating because with as big of a community as it is, and as impassioned as they are, there's not a single person that can prove me wrong. An old vet that lives in the woods. There isn't one of you that's more knowledgeable about XRP and can point out that, because there's no shortage of people that think that we're wrong about XRP.
Okay, but what was your goal? Your goal was to tell people about XRP and say, hey, look, this is the data and be careful.
If you have to go, Jeff, go ahead. I'm sorry. I don't mean to keep you.
Yeah, no, appreciate it, fellas.
All right, we'll talk to you later.
Because your goal was to let people know more about XRP and the facts and data and say, hey, be careful. It might not be what you think it is.
And we could be wrong, but it's just it gets frustrating, making content for all these years and dealing with these communities and not being able to find people when you have large amounts of people that that believe so strongly as they do,
right?
But not I have yet to find a single person that can give a well-reasoned, logical basis for why they're bullish on some of these projects. That
right.
and to me, it's like, how can you be so passionate and so financially invested in something that you obviously don't know about? And so that's what gets frustrating for me, because I know that a lot of people out there are going to get hurt, and it's none of my business what people do, but I just wish that people would at least listen to the information, process it, and whatever you do with it, that's up to you. But to totally dismiss new information.
But that's why I asked you, like, what's your goal? Because as I was reading the chat, people, XRP holders, they say, okay, they were giving you a hard time because that's what they do. But they say, hey, thank you for the information. That's refreshing. I like to see that data. So that's good. I mean, I saw that there are some XRP holders that they have an open mind and they're willing to change their minds like you didn't you?
Yeah. No, I was in the top 2% of XRP holders. It was my largest holding for like 5 years. And I sold it at a profit. And I told our community when I sold it. I had an average buy-in of like 32 cents, 34 cents, something like that. And I sold at $2. I didn't sell the top. I'm not going to claim that I sold the top.
But you cannot complain about that profit. Yeah.
No, I made a great profit. I sold HBAR, I sold XLM, I sold XRP, what else? Quant, all the ISO tokens. It was my whole portfolio. And when they all pumped, I sold them all. That was my escape pump. And that's when I got into DeFi. And I started focusing on other projects. So I made my profits and I moved on. But and a lot of it was because I saw that ISO narrative was, from the data that I found, was bullshit. The whole premise of that was that it was because I was open to new information. But it's a messaging system. Long story short, the ISO 20022 is a messaging system format that syncs up with like Swift's old system. So basically, it's the approved way that messages are sent between banks, so that they can verify that yes, this amount of money is being sent. This is the amount of money being received. All that. This is who's sending it. This is who's receiving it. All that information. And it's all bullshit, because there's plenty of other technologies that can accomplish the same thing now. So
yeah, it sounds a little bit too complicated. And it sounds like they're putting together a narrative so people can buy in. That's kind of what it sounds like to me.
Oh, it is what it is. But anyway, I appreciate y'all watching. Appreciate you, Paulo. And
appreciate it, man.
I'm going to go and get myself something to eat and take a shower and relax a little bit. So hopefully we'll see you tomorrow for the Node Show. And until then, Veteran Crypto out.
Bye-bye.